Most people who know about scripting have been doing it completely wrong. And I only know that because I did it completely wrong for months and months on end before I actually figured out what makes it work. And the difference between the version that works and the version that doesn't work is so specific. I can't emphasize it enough. So specific and so small that most people never notice it. But it's the difference between writing in a journal for like a year with nothing changing and watching your life shift faster than you can explain. So let me start with what scripting actually is, because even if you've heard of it, stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is not the version that you've seen online, because I've never seen this online. So scripting is about writing your future as if it's already happened, not I want this or not I want or I hope this comes. You write this is my life, present tense, past tense, it doesn't really matter. The point is you're describing something that already exists, what your day looks like, how it feels, what you're thinking about, how and what you're thinking about now that the thing that you wanted is just normal. And right now, some of you are thinking, okay, I get it. It's just journaling. What what about it? And I've heard this before. That's exactly the version that doesn't work. And here's why. So your brain processes vivid written experience almost identically to real experience. Not exactly the same, but very, very, very close. And close enough that the emotional response, the neural activation, the nervous system response, they overlap in a way that actually matters. Which means when you write in enough detail with enough like emotional specification, your brain starts filing that written experience as a reference point, but not anymore as an imagination. It's actually something that happened as evidence of what's possible for you. And your brain builds its predictions about your future from those reference points. It filters every single opportunity, every idea, every decision through what it has on file. So when you consistently feed it written evidence of the life you're building, you're literally adding new files to the cabinet, new data points it has to factor in its model of what's available to you. And that's not spiritual. That's just how memory and how prediction work. But here's the catch, and this is kind of the part that kills most people's scripting practice before it ever even gets a chance to work. Your brain is not stupid. It knows the difference between a vivid real memory and a vague abstract statement. And vague abstract statements do not get filed as reference points. They get filed as fiction, as something that the conscious mind invented. And your nervous system, it doesn't update its predictions based on fiction. So when someone writes, I am wealthy and free and grateful, nothing happens. Not because scripting doesn't work, but because that sentence has no sensory detail, no emotional specification, no lived texture. It's a brochure, and your brain files it exactly like one. The version that actually works looks completely different. It's not what you have, it's about what you're thinking about on a Tuesday morning, now that the old problems are gone. It's about what your day starts with now that money is just handled. It's like what's inside of your car. It's like what the inside of your car smells like. What's the first thing you do when you sit down to work? What it feels like in your body to not carry that low level financial anxiety anymore. That level of specificity, is that how I said that? What gets past the brain's filter. So that's what lands as as a reference point instead of a fantasy story. Um, I started scripting about 8 months ago, and I want to tell you exactly what my life looked like when I started because I think it matters. I was driving a Scion FRS. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a fun car. I love that car. It was like 10 grand. I was obsessed with McLarens since I was a kid. Like genuinely obsessed. I had photos saved. I knew every single spec. And at the point I started scripting, I had no logical business thinking a McLaren was anywhere close to being an actual reality. I hadn't cracked anything significant yet. I had stores running, but nothing that would actually make you look at me and go, oh, that guy's gonna buy a supercar soon. Nothing at all. And I remember sitting down to script for the first time and writing about driving a McLaren and feeling almost embarrassed. Like I would write it and I was like, what am I saying? Like the words felt presumptuous, you would say. My conscious mind kept interrupting, going, you know, this is a stretch, right? Like there's a dozen things that would have to go right for this to happen. But here's what I started noticing. The more specific I wrote about it, not just I have a McLaren, but what it felt like to pull up somewhere in it, what the steering wheel felt like, what I was thinking about when driving, and the novelty had worn off and it was just my normal car. The embarrassment honestly just went away. Not because I was convinced logically, but because somewhere underneath all that logic, something started treating it like it was familiar, like a place I'd been before. And I kept writing every single morning before I touched my phone, specific, detailed, emotionally real. Not just about the car, but about everything. What my Shopify dashboard looked like, what problems I was focused on now that the money problem was solved, what my days felt like when I wasn't carrying that background anxiety about whether things were going to work out or whether they were not. And there was this one morning, I remember it very vividly actually, where I sat down to write something, and it felt different. I wasn't reaching for the feeling anymore. It was just there. Like I wasn't writing towards something. I was just writing from inside something. And I didn't really fully understand yet what had shifted in that moment, but I felt it. 3 months later, I was sitting in McLaren at a dealership, and the thing I remember the most actually was not the excitement, but it was how unsurprised it felt. Like some part of me had already been there 100 or even 1,000 times. Like the paperwork was just a formality kind of for something that had already happened somewhere else first. Like it felt so real, which is kind of weird and a little bit crazy, but that's what scripting actually did. Not manifested a car out of thin air. That's not going to happen. But it built a reference point so specific and so repeated that when the opportunity came, my brain didn't treat it as a leap. It treated it like the next obvious step. So here's the thing about scripting that makes it more powerful than visualization alone. And this is the distinction that took me, I think, actually the longest to understand. When you actually visualize, you're watching a movie of your future, which is useful, but you're still just the observer. You're still standing outside looking through the window. Scripting forces you to inhabit it because writing requires you to generate the experience from the inside. You cannot write I feel certain about where my life is going without your nervous system producing at least a version of that feeling in order to put the words together. The act of writing, it pulls you into the state rather than keeping you outside of it. Neville Goddard called this living in the end, not visualizing your goal from your current position looking forwards, but inhabiting the moment after it's already done and looking backwards. And scripting is the most practical tool I've actually found for doing that because you cannot write from inside a moment without mentally stepping into it first. And the more times you can step into it, even briefly on paper, the more familiar it will start to feel, the more your nervous system starts treating it as a known place rather than a foreign one. And familiarity is everything because you don't take bold, inevitable action towards things that feel weird and forward and out of reach. You take very bold, inevitable action towards things that already feel like home and they're not out of reach. So here's the part that almost nobody talks about. I said I mentioned it earlier, but it's time probably now. And it's the second phase that most people don't ever get to. And without the first phase, it only works at half the power. Most people treat scripting like a task to complete. They're there for 10 minutes, close the journal, and move on with their day like they just tick something off a list. And the writing was good, the specifications were there, but then they immediately open their phone and flood their nervous system with everything that contradicts what they just wrote. The comparison, the noise, the anxiety, the news, all of it. And within about 4 or 5 minutes, honestly, the state that the scripting built is just gone. It's replaced by whatever the outside world just fed them, whatever scrolling just fed them. The second phase is what happens in your nervous system the moment you close the journal. And the people who get real results from scripting treat that moment like the most important moment of the whole practice, more than the scripting itself, honestly. They close the journal and they sit in that state for a few minutes before they do anything else. They let it land. They let their nervous system actually inhabit what they just wrote before the outside world gets a chance to pull them back out of it. Because because the writing builds the reference point, but the stillness after writing it is actually when it gets filed. When it goes from something that you consciously created to something that your nervous system starts treating as familiar, and that transition, that quiet moment between closing the journal and re-engaging with the world is where most people's scripting practice just it leaks all of its power, honestly. Like all of it just goes away. Write fully, then be still, and go about your day. That sequence every single morning before anything else. And the last piece of advice I have for you guys, scripting combined with detachment is when it becomes genuinely just unstoppable. You write it fully, you sit in the state for a bit, you release your grip on the timeline completely, you don't spend the rest of the day checking for signs that it's coming, you don't monitor and track and hope. You wrote it. You filed it. Now just let the engine room do its job while you focus on what's in front of you. This scripting builds the new reference point. The detachment lets your brain actually act on it without the stress response, flooding everything and blocking it. Together, they create the exact internal state where things they actually start moving in a way that almost feels too fast to explain. I didn't get here because I was the most talented or I had some advantage that other people didn't. Like, yes, I was very lucky to be here at all, right? But I got here because I started consistently feeding my brain evidence of a life that it had no reference point for. Anyone can do it, specifically enough, repeated enough, and then still enough to actually get filed. 10 minutes every morning. Write it like it's already true. Be specific enough that your brain can't file it as fiction. Sit in it for a few minutes after you close the journal and then release it and go build. That's the whole entire thing. That's the version that actually works. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate you all watching. I make one of these videos every single day. Stay tuned if you like them. If not, carry on with the day. I appreciate you all watching till the end though. Peace out. By the way, if you guys want to learn what I do, which is dropshipping, that's how I afford that McLaren, um, and this watch right here, which is more than it should be. I have a Discord where I teach everyone everything completely for free. There's no course. I don't sell a course. I will never sell a course. It's changed a lot of people's lives that I've seen just in person and also online and also in that server. People are already doing sales. Some people are doing $3,000-$4,000 days, which is insane because they just started out. So I will see you guys there.